Yesterday I saw the Cloverfield Paradox. I wanted to see it sooner. I was actually watching the Super Bowl waiting for the trailer to be released when it was released, because I heard something on the Cloververse subreddit that there would be some kind of announcement during the Super Bowl. I didn't know it would actually be an announcement that the movie would be released right after the Super Bowl. As far as I can tell, this is an unprecedented release, which is really cool and it fits well with this whole Cloverfield situation. Unfortunately, after seeing the movie, I think it feels wasted. I didn't like this movie, and it seems like in general it's not getting good reception. As a standalone movie, it would just be mediocre and forgettable, and I do still think it's just a mediocre movie. I ended up giving it a 5.5 out of 10. But because I think it's supposed to explain a lot of the Cloverfield mystery or whatever, that's what makes it really disappointing. It didn't need to be an amazing movie to justify this weird release, but as a Cloverfield movie, I think it just didn't work. It didn't feel like the others. Granted, 10 Cloverfield Lane felt very different from Cloverfield, but tone-wise it was similar enough that it wasn't jarring. This is just occurring to me now, but it's kind of weird how 10 Cloverfield Lane felt so much like its own story, and that was the first sequel, and now only one movie later, only the third film in the franchise, they're trying to explain so much of the mystery, so it's like, why was 10 Cloverfield Lane a thing? Now it just seems like that was a distraction. And of course there's all the story with the ARG, which just makes it so much more confusing because they've still barely acknowledged that. There's a Slusho bobblehead in the ship in this movie, but they don't really explain that at all. It just seems totally random. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, I mean, I thought this was gonna happen. It's a J.J. Abrams project, and he's the guy behind Lost and Star Wars The Force Awakens. I mean, I liked both of those projects, but they just set up so many questions that the writers didn't really have answers to. And that's the case here, so this movie, I guess, kind of feels like towards the end of Lost when they're trying to answer stuff, and it just feels confusing and unsatisfying, because the way they're trying to explain it is basically like anything is possible in this scenario, so that's why everything's so weird. That's not really an explanation. That's how I saw it anyway. But I'm kind of getting sidetracked. Back to the tone. I don't think the first two movies really had much of a score, but this movie had a really grand score, or like a whole orchestra anyway, and that went a long way to making this feel really different. Even with the first two movies aside, the score still felt kind of unnecessary. Like, this movie didn't really need an orchestrated score. The score was giving like an E.T. vibe, when the movie was giving more of an Alien vibe, so it didn't really match. I don't know if this would really be a complaint if this movie was just on its own, but the fact that the first two movies didn't even have a score like this, it just makes it even more noticeable. I don't think they had a score like this. I know the first movie probably didn't because it was a handheld movie type of thing, so it wouldn't make sense there. This movie also tried to have moments of comic relief, which also just made it feel different. 10 Cloverfield Lane didn't really have that. Cloverfield had some, because the guy behind the camera was T.J. Miller, but then it just makes sense. I mean, because those are just people in the middle of this disastrous situation. Chris O'Dowd's character cracking jokes in this didn't really feel right to me. They were all important scientists. It doesn't really make sense that they'd be like, oh, whoa, that's freaky. I think they would try to handle the situation seriously, which most of them do, but Chris O'Dowd's character is just like, oh, whoa, that's so weird, man. Am I right? That's not supposed to be a Chris O'Dowd impression. I don't know. He was just trying to make light of the situation, and it didn't really fit, I think. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I could get into spoilers, but I'm not exactly sure what else I'd say, so I don't see the point. I guess I also wanted to mention I saw this weird list that IMDb made and had on the front page of their website. 9 things you need to know about the Cloverfield Paradox. I'll put a link in the description. It was just so stupid. They made comparisons to the movie being like Rick and Morty. They said it was like an episode of Rick and Morty and that Chris O'Dowd's character is Rick in this situation. That's just such a stupid thing to say. And I feel kind of cringy even mentioning Rick and Morty, which sucks that the TV show has gotten to that status in my head now. But that's a video for another time. Probably never make that video, but whatever. The list was also clearly just supposed to be promotion for the movie. They acted like they had just seen the movie and that they wanted to talk about it, but it was clearly a promotion. They even have banners on the site for the movie, so it's a paid promotion, and they don't say it there at all. They just act like, hey, this is a fun movie, right, kids? You should go see it. Kind of like Rick and Morty. You like Rick and Morty, right?
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Because this movie is such a disappointment, I should probably give it lower than a 5.5, but it just felt like a mediocre movie. I don't know, I hope somehow the next one's better, but considering what this has brought to the table and to the story, I don't know if that's even going to be possible now, unless it's something like 10 Cloverfield Lane. But even with that, the Cloverfield tie-in was really, I don't know. I think I was disappointed with that too. I would be worried that because this movie was such a critical flop, the lesson they might take from that is to not do a reveal like that again. Like, like releasing the movie the same day they released the trailer. But I think I saw that apart from the reviews, this movie was actually a success. That within the first 2 weeks or whatever, it had like 2.5 million viewers. I don't know how that compares to if it had been in a movie theater. I really don't know how they can afford to just have it on Netflix, unless Netflix bought it for like a couple $1 million or whatever. But then how can Netflix afford to buy it? I don't know how any of that works. The way Netflix makes money is really confusing to me. I mean, I know where they get the money from. I just don't understand how it's a sustainable model. But anyway, since it was successful in that aspect, I guess maybe this hasn't doomed that kind of release. Then again, I don't know if that kind of release would be as special the second time. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, 5.5 out of 10. That's what I'm giving it. I wouldn't recommend it unless you care about where the Cloverfield movies are going. And if you do, then you probably already seen it. It only took me so long because I wanted to make this video about it. I know I said I was going to watch Troll 2, but I guess I'll do that next time.